everyone. This is Ryan Peters, the host of Stuck in the Catch Fence. I'm joined by Travis, but unfortunately, the season has come to an end, but that doesn't mean the news or everything else has not, as we are going to wrap up the finale here for the entire 2023 season. And it's kind of just going to be an organic conversation here where Travis and I talk about the things we'll remember the most, the things that were disappointing, and everything in between when it comes to the NASCAR 2023 season, the second season of the Next Gen car. So, again, going back to my co-host Travis, how you doing on this wonderful Wednesday evening?
I'm still recovering from Sunday, but we're okay. You know, we getting into full basketball mode and everything else, so we're doing okay though. We're doing okay.
Normally, we do a quick question, but I do want to ask. Your driver was in the championship 4. I think that's pretty clear that you're a Kyle Larson fan. Kind of run me through the thing that I thought about Travis while watching this. It reminded me of when Kyle Busch was trying to chase down Martin Truex Jr. and Martin Truex Jr. could not be chased down and won his championship. Those were the feelings that I empathetically had for you. As somebody who lived it out as a fan, let me know, how was Sunday for watching your driver?
I mean, I think his pit crew kept him in. I mean, if we're gonna be honest with you, his pit crew on point, every pit stop gained him spots. We'll just be honest with you. I think they just didn't have it. I mean, if we're just gonna be honest with you, I think Kyle Larson made up what Kyle Larson does, and I would even put it to perspective. I think they were maybe a 10th place car. I think they did not have a better than a 10th place car. I think with some pit strategy and, having Larson behind the wheel, I think it made some difference. But, when they came out first in that one, I was like, you know what? If he could just get past Chastain, he's got a chance. But when Chastain raced him pretty hard and didn't get around him, and Chastain had every right to do that, I knew he was done. I knew, I thought your guy was going to help us out by spinning out, and that's what we needed. And sure enough, he got the lead obviously from his pit. His guys were phenomenal all day, but you're just not
kind of 2020 deja vu there whenever he came out.
Yeah, 2021 and where but he was just like in 2021, man. He was just the 4th place car. So I don't know if they just missed it or they were trying something a little different that they thought that was good, because man, they were really good in the spring, and they were just, I feel like they did it back in 2021. And heck, if you think about it, last year, they were not good either. Mm-hmm. So it really, I don't know. They just don't have the fall set up there, it seems like. So I was frustrated. In 2021, I felt like he was obligated to win. I feel like he had such a good season that if he didn't win, I think it was one of the biggest bust seasons, you could think of. I think you could even think about like
Kevin Harvick the year before.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to say. Besides Kevin Harvick in 2020. And I think this year had some of the same feelings in a sense, but, that's just how the playoffs go. And that Blaney and them found something that, no one else found. And, ever since that little penalty thing that they had and got reversed, they found something, and, kudos to them. They were by far the fastest of the day, and, he was probably 3rd best car, if we're going to be honest with you. So
yeah,
it is what it is. It stinks. I was hoping to come out of here and say he was a 2-time champion, but he still has plenty of years. He still has 10 more years to go get a 2nd and 3rd or 4th or whatever that might be.
Right. And, obviously I was rooting for Christopher Bell. If you guys have followed the channel, that's the guy that I picked. And I was on my way to the Bengals game watching it because I am a season ticket holder. We literally tailgated and watched the race. So I did get to watch it in full and watch it and live it organically. The first thing that came to mind when he blew the brake rotor, and as you know, Travis, this has happened throughout the year, I was like, oh, please don't let this be a string of incidents on the championship race. Because normally when one brake rotor fails, multiple people have brake rotor issues. And for what reason, it was just Christopher Bell. So I don't know if it was just a faulty part, if it was a faulty setup. I thought he had a chance to race Ryan Blaney. I don't think he had a chance to beat Ryan Blaney. If that's a
I think about 30 laps before that, he got past Larson, And I sit here, remember talking to my buddy in Evansville, going, "My God!" I said his brake rotors are on fire. They were
Yeah.
glowing, and about 30 laps later, they blew out and everything. And it's funny. My Evansville buddy goes, "How'd you know that was going to happen?" And I was like, "I didn't, but you could just see how red they were, and it's only 40, 50, 60 laps into this race."
And the Phoenix Sun. It's not like we were at a night race. I
Yes,
mean, you're in the
exactly.
middle of the Phoenix Sun. So, that part sucked for being a Christopher Bell fan, but it is what it is. It's a great season to get to the championship for. And, I look at on the other side, William Byron. I mean, outside of Larson, Larson and him were kind of the same in speed and practice. They seems like they both set their cars up for qualifying, but Byron didn't have a chance the entire race. And it felt that way early. It felt that way like Byron was going to, I don't know if struggle's the right word, struggled to get a championship. And it seemed like they needed some help. His pit crew, like Larson's, set him up in a chance on the front row. And Byron's car, if Kyle Larson was a 10th place car, then Byron was, a little bit further than that. To wrap up his season, though, because this is a season wrap up, I couldn't be more ecstatic if I'm a Byron fan. Because at 25 years old, if he would have won a championship at 25 years old, I mean, we're talking historic things from here on out. I mean, we're looking at Byron in a completely different vein. Unfortunately, he doesn't win the championship. But I mean, overall, Travis, what are your thoughts on the entirety of the season when it comes to William Byron?
I thought it was a good stepping stone. I was a little worried, when he first came out in 2018, didn't win anything. 2019 didn't win anything, and really ran in the mid pack of things. And then he finally in 2021 at Daytona to get into the playoffs. Then we saw him in 2021 win a race, 2022 run a few more, and then we had a breakout year. And it reminds me a lot of Joey Logano. If we really think about how same path, came into racing really young, came into the Cup Series very young, tore up some stuff, wasn't very competitive, only competitive on certain things, very, very, similar. And I think William needed some confidence. And I firmly believe that this year was like, hey, confidence, like I'm here, like I can do this. And that's what he needed. And, he showed that competitive all year. And I think he learned that you got to be there at the end in order to win races. And like I said, I think it's a great stepping stone. I think he knows what he needs to do. I think he's going to learn that there's some patience involved. I think about when they were all scared at Martinsville and they came out of it. And he's still learning. He got to remember he's only 25, like you said. He's still super young. But like I said, I think it was an all in all good year. I think it was a good stepping stone. I think it was like, okay, I can do this. Like I can compete. And, now I think people recognized him now. I don't think people saw him as a big threat until this year.
Mm-hmm.
And
I completely agree with that.
I didn't see him as a big threat anyway. And I'll be honest with you. I wasn't, as a Larson fan, he wasn't a worry to me. I knew that maybe at the end of the race a little bit, but I saw more of a Blaney as a threat and even like a Christopher Bell as a threat than Byron. And I think it just came from some experience and being in those situations. You think of his crew chief, how has he won his championships in the truck series? They've essentially already been won by the time he's gotten to that point.
Yeah.
So, you look at some of that stuff like that and I think it's a good all in all, a successful year that they can check mark and say, hey, we grew. We know what we got to do for next time.
Obviously have waited last for the champion. And there's a reason for that because a lot of people, at least reading on the socials, at least going through all the different things, and I don't want to group you into this, but I mean, maybe you feel that way. There's what I think is a lot of upset Hendrick Motorsports people that really wanted to see one of their guys win the championship. And since they haven't now for 2 years in a row, want things to change because they believe, speaking as in groupthink from what I've read, not including you in this, that because Ryan Blaney, who was mediocre at best in the middle of the season, then gets hot at the right time, wins the championship. Very, very similar to Joey Logano, but I would say even worse than what Joey Logano was in the middle of the season. I think a lot of us view Joey as a guy that could win any week. I've never viewed Ryan Blaney that way. Um, I actually had him losing in the first round of the playoffs, and I think there's a lot of people that felt that way. So there's some sort of this overall thought process that maybe the playoffs is tanked the way that the playoffs are run because a guy like Ryan Blaney, who got hot at the right time, ends up winning it. I'll go first, and then I'll let you respond after this, Travis. But the way that I view sports are, if you get to said playoff, you have just as good a chance to win it as anybody else. Actually, in the NASCAR playoffs, you get a better chance of winning it because of what you do in the regular season, typically versus any other sport, because a lot of sports are getting rid of the buys even. So you get to carry on a point allocation until you get to the final race of the season. And we needed that, or Ryan Blaney needed that, because he had to compete every single round because of what he lacked in the regular season. So the same thing I'll say this is that Ryan Blaney had to get there. He rightfully did. He got hot at the right time, got himself into the championship 4, and ended up being the best car that day. He had one of the best speeds in practice, and ended up being the best car that day. I will say overall, will people look at this season in the same way that maybe we would have done it if any of the other 3 won? Probably not. I think maybe you, Travis, would probably have more of a distaste in your mouth if Christopher Bell won. And that's rightfully so, because he was less dominant than the other 2 drivers.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you got to get to the Final Four. The most, if you want to call it luck or regular season, doesn't matter. The NCAA tournament is the biggest crapshoot of them all when it comes to any type of championship being won. I mean, you're talking 68 teams that can get in with a losing record. All they have to do is win 4 or 5 games in a row at the end of their season. The regular body of work does not matter at all. And then those teams can upset other teams. I think, looking at what the playoff system we have now, I will argue with you all day that it doesn't need to be at Phoenix, because I don't feel like that's a driver's racetrack, especially taking away from Homestead, where we put the drivers in the situation to run multiple lines, to do all these different things. But to say that Ryan Blaney doesn't deserve this championship because the playoff system is flawed, I think it's just noise for people that wanted to see their guy win it. And, I will take constructive criticism on things we can do to alter the playoff system, but Ryan Blaney, to me, is a 2023 championship. We could discuss the legacy, but in terms of being the rightful champion, I just think that he is.
I mean, let's rewind this a little bit, and people that are hating on this, and let's think of Chase Elliott, 2020, out of the playoffs, wins the last 2 races of the year, wins a championship. Now, given he won 5 races compared to what Blaney won 4.
He won 4, yeah.
And he won the last 2. You got to look at that. But think about in 2020, where did Chase Elliott win a lot of those races at?
Road courses.
So do do we look at the same way as, it got hot at the right moment? You could argue to say, hey, I think Chase Elliott was probably a little bit more consistent in 2020 per se than Ryan Blaney was this year. If you look at I don't have the finishes side by side and everything. I don't have that on top of my head.
Right.
But, you could really argue to the point of, if you're going to take away this championship from Ryan Blaney, well, let's go back to 2020. Even you could even go back to 2022. Now, given, Joey won the first race and the last race of the year. If you really look at that, he won the Coliseum, and then he won at the end. You could argue both ways, but I think it shows if you have the momentum and you can just ignite at the right time, it all works out. Because think about after he won Talladega. Think about what think about the run they went on. They were okay at Vegas. I think they finished 7th, and then they went and did what did they go after? Well, Roval, they were. I don't remember. I don't remember the Roval, to be honest with you. I don't know where they finished at the Roval. Usually he does okay there, but then he went to Las Vegas 7th. Like, yeah, like no big deal. Nowhere to be really found. And then you look at he goes. Where did they go after the Vegas? Then he was pretty fast at Homestead,
Right.
and then he goes to Phoenix and wins. And then he
I think it was
goes to. I mean,
6-2-1 was his finish in the round of 8 was 6-2-1.
yeah, something like that. Think about that. One, and then really, you finished second at the Chastain, but I'd count that as a partial win. You won the championship with that, so what a heck of a ending per se to the season. What I don't know off the top of my head. I'd like to see where he finished at the Roval, but he could have had what a 3-point something average finish at the end of the year. So I don't know where he finished at the Roval.
I'll vet that for you right now. Give me just 1 second. And so I mean, when you look at it from your perspective, and somebody says, Travis, let me know about the 2023 NASCAR champion and Ryan Blaney. I mean, what's the first thing that'll come to your mind?
What's the first thing that comes to my mind as a 2023 champion?
If somebody says, hey, Travis, I know you like NASCAR. Tell me about the 2023 champion and Ryan Blaney. What would be the first thing that comes to your mind?
The first thing I think is just he's just a middle of the pack guy. I mean, he's just there. He's a very random winner. I feel like his wins are just random, but I feel like he's just a guy that he's always around top 10. I bet if you look at the history of Ryan Blaney, he's always right there between 8th place and 13th. I bet if you look at his stuff,
right.
Where do you see Ryan Blaney? He's like 8th. Oh, and then he randomly wins at a road course or like he won the 600 this year that caught everyone off guard. He's very much I think he's I would even say 7th or 13th. You give me some numbers, give me about 6. So he's very much around there. I think if you would have said Ryan Blaney was going to win the championship midway through the season, I don't even know what the odds would have been on that thing. Like that would have probably paid $10 to win every bit of a couple thousand.
Right.
So if I had to name Ryan Blaney and if someone said name, I would say he is definitely, I would say he's above average. If I'm gonna be, and I hate to sound like this, he's a champion. He should be way upgraded that. But if you just look at when he started back in 2016 for the Wood Brothers to now, I just see him as a very, he's won Pocono, and then he won. I could probably name all his wins on my finger. He's got Pocono, and then he's got the next one's a Roval. I don't know if he won in 2019. I don't know if he won in 2020, but then in 2021 he won Michigan and Daytona to end it. Did he win last year?
No, he didn't win last year. Him and Martin Truex were fighting for the last spot.
That's what it was.
And then they made kind of a situation to where somebody lost points, so both of them got in because neither one of them had a win.
So then you have that. And then Martin Truex didn't even get in. He wasn't even in the playoffs last year.
Right. That's right. Yes.
Yeah. And then
because there's going to be those two fighting, and then
so then he won So then he won this year. He won. Oh no, he won in 2020. He won at Talladega in 2020. He did one in 2020 because he beat Ryan Newman at the line.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think he's got 3 wins. He's got 3 wins there. He's got the 600. He has Pocono. And then he's got, let's see I want to see how close I get on this. Pocono, and then he's gotten, then he had 4 wins this year. So what has he got? 8 wins? Pocono, Roval. I'm gonna guess this. Don't tell me the number when you look this up. I just want to see Pocono, Roval, Talladega, Bam, bam. He's got 9 wins.
You're going with 9. I'll vet that for you. I do want to say this. So he finished 12th at the Roval, and you compared him a little bit to Chase Elliott when Chase Elliott won the championship. The average finish for Ryan Blaney this year was 14th. That was the average finish. In the championship season for Chase Elliott, it was 11.6. So not, I mean,
So they
2
were,
spots.
yeah. So they were kind of at the same time. They were very much, very much alike. So what's your guess before you come through?
I don't know. I'm gonna just look at it because I already got.
I gotta rethink this. So I gotta get a final number because I'm thinking he won 4 times this year, but he actually only won 3.
He won 3 this year. That's
he
correct.
won 3. So I was thinking 4. So let's see here. Pocono 1 year. So that was 2016, I think. I don't remember him winning in 2017.
He won in Pocono at 2017.
Oh, so it's 20. So 2017 won 2018 he won the Roval, 2019 Dega, 2020 Dega. So there's 4. 2021 he won 2 times.
3 times.
He won 3 times in 2021. He
won 3 times in 2021.
He won Michigan. He won. Oh, he did. He won in Dega too. So he won Michigan, Daytona, and Dega. So there's 3. So and then 20.
He won 3 times this year.
Yep.
Like you said.
10. So 10.
10 wins. Yep. That's correct. That would be as many as Kevin Harvick won in 2020.
And Larson in 2021.
Correct. Yeah. So, that's a long ordeal to go about Ryan Blaney. Again, it's just a different, I don't know. It's the next gen car, number one. It has allowed these drivers, I don't know if we'll ever see, unless we see some changes, because what we have now, Travis, is we have these single source parts, and the ability to alter these parts are very few and far between on what you're allowed to do. So I don't know if we're going to see a 10-win driver, or at least, I don't know. I mean, when you're talking Larson, he almost doubled the field in wins. Kevin Harvick almost doubled the field in the next closest guy to wins. I don't know if we see that again. Maybe we get to 10, but I don't know. Maybe somebody else gets close to that, unless we see just complete change in the motors to where they do allow for these cars to have a ton more horsepower, and somebody is able to fix it and get a lot closer. But at the end of the year, you got Penske. End up with 2 championships, first 2 times in the next gen car. I think that'll probably be an anomaly, but at the same time, we bash Ford all year long and just say they don't have the speed, they don't have the recruits, they don't have this, and then they go out and sweep the entire weekend.
The whole weekend. And I wanna go back on that and say, the cream always rises to the top, and we got this next gen stuff. I think, are there going to be some winners? Yeah, I think like Michael McDowell was a good one to point out this year. I think of some of that stuff, but I truly believe in the next 2 years we're going to see the cream rise to the top, and we're going to see the same thing we saw 5-6 years ago, where and I think a perfect example is even Spire to a certain degree. Some of the stuff has changed this year, but you think about where they still run. Think about where some of these teams still run. I think that number has lessened to a certain degree. I think, they do have some of those like random, like really good runs, whether it's not in the back of the pack. But even think about the beginning of the year with Rick Ware. Like they had some good top 15 runs at the beginning of the year that maybe they didn't show up on the finish line, but they were better than Stuart Haas at one point, if we're going to be honest with you.
Yeah,
to a certain degree. So I think the cream always rises to the top, and I do. Is it as likely as it used to be? No, but someone's gonna catch fire. I mean, I hate to sound like this, but think about if Larson finishes some of those races that he was leading. We have a 10-win season through 17 races of the year, But I do think someone's gonna catch lightning in a bottle at one point, and whoever that's gonna be, and there's gonna be a one random 10 race winning season at some point. But I think, like you said, I think the 10-win races in the season is going to be as far fetched and in between.
Yeah, and I think about the couple things that, again, with Ryan Blaney, and then we'll wrap this part up, is that, I've heard them say, well, if they had 3 races, then we could determine a true champion. And it's like the guys that do the best in the year don't always win the championship. I would say almost in any sport, the most dominant regular season team almost doesn't always win. I don't think anybody, whenever Eli Manning beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl and the Patriots were undefeated, go, this should have been a 3-game series. Otherwise, we could have had a rightful champion. I
Yeah.
just don't want to hear that stuff anymore, because
Think
this
about
is
Golden State having the greatest regular season of all time, going what? So they have 82. They went what 70, 73-9 and lost. They were up 3-1 and lost in 7 games.
Yeah,
There's
the
a
Kyrie
point.
Irving. So, I mean, yeah, and then they go out and add Kevin Durant. But, like, it's just, no matter what you do in the regular season, more often than not, if you want to, that's why we grant a regular season champion, which I think is fair. And then we set the regular season champion up more than any other sport to have a chance to win the championship. And that doesn't happen in this sport more often than not, and it doesn't happen in other sports. Kyle Larson is probably the best example of a guy that dominated from the beginning until the very, very end. Outside of that, I mean, when Kyle Busch won in 2019, I just saw a memory today, Travis, and it said, well, Kyle, it hasn't been a great season for your standards, which back then was 5 to 7 wins a year, but all you have to do is make it to Homestead. That's exactly what I put. And it's the truth. All you have to do. So moving forward with the system that we have set up now, and say it doesn't change, Travis, instead of looking at, Jimmy Johnson and his 7 championships, because to me, man, for somebody that won 7 times, Jimmy Johnson is just never remotely close talked about like all the other greats in this sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people just felt, he did what he had to do, but he never was a driver that will consistently live at the top. Maybe that's just because of his personality. I don't know what that reason is. But do we now look at stats and go, this guy won so many races, this guy won crown jewels, and is the other stat we should be looking forward to now is this guy made X amount of Final Fours? Do you think that's a greater outlier than even championships? Because making it to the Final Four, is something that not everybody does, but shows you have a great chance whenever, especially if we keep it at Phoenix, for God's sakes, to show you had a really, really good season. This guy was really, really good, but in one race, a brake rotor can fail, and that shouldn't determine whether or not your all-time legacy is what it is.
I think it's a double-edged sword, and this is what I mean by this is, say Christopher Bell never wins a championship, and he makes it 9 Final Fours. He went 0 for 9. What do they always talk about Michael Jordan? He went 6-0 in the play. He went 6-0. Right. And they always say, what's the difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron James of being the GOAT? Oh, Michael Jordan went 6-0 and LeBron went, 3 of
1,000 right now.
Yeah.
Like, but
so, they always say that's the biggest debate, who's better. And I think if you go to a lot, like Christopher Bell, for instance, if he goes to another 5-6 Final Fours and never gets a championship, I think that can determine your legacy at some point, because it's saying, man, what a good driver. He wins 1 or 2 races a year and gets to the championship and does nothing with it. He gets hot. Think about it. That's all they talk about. Oh, he's clutch. And he had a brake rotor this time. I don't think he was the fastest car. I don't think he would have won it, but you really never know. But you look at it that way. Think about last year. He got into the play. I think he was a non-factor for most of the race, if I remember right. But you got to look at let me
ask you this. Let me interrupt you. If Christopher Bell, and insert driver, I don't care who it is, insert driver that's never won champion. Okay, let's use William Byron if we're just going to switch it up. William Byron makes 5 Final Fours. He ends up winning, let's just say 3 to 5 races every year that he wins, goes to 5 Final Fours. Is he better than Matt Kenseth as an all-time driver?
And he wins 3 or 5 races a year.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And see,
And
that's kind of that's kind of where I got to put it at, because Matt Kenseth was a championship driver that, didn't win any races that year, and Mr. Consistency. But it was just a totally different setup back then. Because I mean, if we ran the race like the old Winston Cup, William Byron's champion this year.
yeah, but that's what I
And there's
said. I
a
think
few other
Ryan Blaney
champions
finishes
too.
like 7th or 8th.
Right? No, you're
in
right.
that. So, I and it's just a different time. Like I said, it's hard to look back on some of that stuff because you go like, oh, like this would have won, all this would have won. But it's a different time. You gotta go. You gotta race the format, and what it comes down to is,
Is Mark Martin better than Matt Kenseth?
no,
No.
no.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think what hurt Mark Martin, and it's good, I could say could help him in a certain degree, was he did exceptional in rides when he left Hendrick.
Yeah.
And you think about all those different rides and things and stuff he did
You mean when he
really
left
well
Roush?
in.
He
Yeah,
went to Hendrick.
he went to Hendrick, and then he went to Michael. He went to Ginn, and then he went to Michael Waltrip. And think about in 07, he's winning the points, and he goes, "I still don't want a full time, season. I'm gonna, that was I think his first non race was like Bristol or something, and it's like you're winning the freaking points, like keep racing,
Yeah.
But I think.
These are the debates we'll have during the offseason, guys.
Yeah, and I
by the
think,
way, so.
like I said, and I think we could have an argument for both, obviously,
Mhm.
but it all, and you could say one argument, and what's everyone's end goal when playing a sport?
To get a championship.
To get a championship, win a sectional, do something, win something.
Get a piece of
And
hardware to show your work.
Yeah, and you could easily say Matt Kenseth, okay, Matt Kenseth is a better driver, but you had to line up stats. I think with NASCAR, I think stats can overshadow a championship to a certain degree, because you could say, he got hot really one year, and then then all the other years, but you could stat out line. I'm thinking of. Think about Bobby Labonte's one championship. Bobby Labonte got really hot one year, but what did he do for all the other years? If we're going to be honest with us,
Good, but not great. I mean,
yeah. I mean, are you going to say
Ryan Blaney like?
Are you going to say Bobby Labonte is a better race car driver than Mark Martin? Are you going to say Bobby Labonte is a better race car driver than Carl Edwards?
That's the first name that came to my mind was Carl Edwards.
Are so you look at all these things.
Yeah.
2000, but after 2000, what did Bobby Labonte actually do? So we have all these fun baits. We can keep going around all these stuff.
Yeah, that's why I look at that. That's why I brought the question up, because if Ryan Blaney doesn't win another championship, that's the kind of conversation we'll probably have. Is what is the all-time legacy of Ryan Blaney? Now, granted, this year he got put on the mat when it comes to the media comparing him to Casey Kane and things of that nature, and he answered the bell. So that's a big feather in the cap of Ryan Blaney to say, hey, I'm not this person you think I am. I am a championship caliber driver, and he did it in the same year. But, I shared this with you. You've seen it as well. I do want to pull it up. We look at these different things. This is kind of a recap. And the one thing you will not see is Ryan Blaney's name on any of these. Now, some of these are not great, like Austin Dillon's DNFs.
Ty Dillon's 30 at the worst.
Yeah, which is that nobody is, shocked by any of this. But let me ask you this. What one stat, when you look at this, surprised you the most? Because I know you did look at this for a little bit. Maybe you need to just glance at it again. But what stat on here surprised you the most?
I had a few on there that I was a little shocked by, and that was I didn't realize Kyle Busch had 7 consecutive top 10s. That kind of stuck out. I knew LaJoy had, I knew we didn't have a DNF throughout any of that, but the one that kind of surprised me a little bit was the stage points with Hamlin. And you think about, you look back and go, oh, like he really was pretty around there a lot of the times. So, stuff like that. Um, Everything else, I felt like you could almost like if you. I feel like you and I could get on this thing, and we never read this. We could probably go. We could probably. I think there was 39 things on here.
Something like that.
I
I can't
think I
remember.
think we could get over 75%. But the ones that kind of shocked me was maybe the not really shocked, but the consecutive top tens with Bush. I thought that was really, really quiet. Um, um, Everything else, I just feel like maybe Hamlin races led of 27. I didn't think I would probably never guessed him as being the one that was it. Um, but yeah, I thought it was kind of all what you would almost think. Maybe I don't know what was still shocking to you, or did you see something that maybe was
Um,
like, oh, that jumped off the plate?
yeah, I think that I knew Christopher Busher had a really good year. But seeing the most top 20s, that's surprising. The most consecutive top 20s, that's surprising. Completed more laps than anybody else in the field, and only had 4 races this year where he wasn't on the lead lap. So and then on top of that, consecutive lead lap finishes. Brad Keselowski, 24 races in a row where he didn't lose a lap. And you think about last year, comparing that to what they were to now, that's just such a huge step for RFK. I mean, because
Mhm.
if you would have put me gun to my head and say, hey, Christopher Busher is going to lead this year in top 20s, I'm like, okay, sure. Or Brad Keselowski is going to have the most consecutive races where he's not lapped. I'm like, Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski is going to find himself not getting lapped or DNF or wrecking the most in a group. That would have surprised me. So that's great things for RFK. Outside of that, I am kind of shocked by Austin Dillon having the most DNFs. He's not the driver I would have picked. Do I think Austin Dillon's the greatest driver in the world? No, but 10 DNFs is asinine. I mean, just absolutely crazy. And compared to where his teammate was, not that Kyle Busch didn't have his moments the entire year. But no, I'm with you. I think that we could have hammered out quite a bit of these. But Byron with playoff points, I think that kind of surprised me a little bit. He's been good, but I wouldn't have guessed that he had the most points in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So just a fun thing to look at as a whole.
Can you believe that there was? I think I did the math. I think there was only like 12 or 13 teams made up that list, and
Yeah,
it's all from like 4 organizations. So you had Hendrick, Gibbs that dominated all that,
correct.
RFK, RCR, and then you had Spire.
Yeah.
Five organizations made up that. There are only like 13 teams.
Yeah, well, it's
Little
funny too that you had Ty Dillon the most finishes below 30, and then you had Corey LaJoy
that finished.
that finished the most races.
And
Kind of a weird.
I think you look at, and I think it goes back to our point 15 minutes ago about, the cream always still rises to the top. No matter how equal you can get the cars, the cream always rises to the top. You're going to have people that are still going to be the ones dominant. It is what it is.
So next thing I want to do, and then we'll do burn it down right after this, is what's your biggest takeaway from 2023? And if you want me to go first, I can go first. Again, this is kind of we're just going off the cuff. It's the last regular weekly show. So if you want to go first, you can go first. If you want me to go first, I'll go first, and we'll go after that.
It don't matter. But I think the biggest takeaway is Penske still undefeated and in the next gen car when it comes to championships. So kudos to them. I think another big thing is we got to figure out the short tracks and road courses, things like that. I thought the year was with still a lot of surprises. I thought we were still getting some good stuff. I think this was still another year of you saw some really good performances last year of some of the less funded teams. And I feel like this year we didn't have that. Still the same 3-ish teams still were the ones that were running up front. You knew who were going to be the top 10. NASCAR was a little bit more predictable this year than it was last year. Last year, I can't tell you how much money I lost betting NASCAR. Then this year, I made money betting on NASCAR because it was pretty predictable and you could almost guess what's going to happen. So, let's hopefully we can figure out something for stuff like that, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, my thing that I think I'm going to look back on, and when I'm thinking about 2024, as I saw this graphic the other day, and it said the 4 oldest drivers in NASCAR, and it was Kyle Busch will be the oldest driver in NASCAR, which it's hard for me to fathom. I've got to that point in my life that my favorite driver is the oldest driver in NASCAR, and then it's followed by Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex, and now Joey Logano. So
isn't that crazy to think about? You know how old Joey Logano is?
33, 34?
33. Isn't it crazy? He's been
Yeah.
in it for 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, so thinking about that and thinking about none of those drivers made the Final Four. So is there a changing of the guard? Is the youth movement here? And somebody's going to have to take their spots when it comes to elite, because those guys were still really, really good in the regular season. I mean, Joey Logano had the worst out of all of them, still won a race. But you think about Denny Hamlin. At one point, I made a video that said it's between Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson who wins the regular season or who wins the championship.
Yeah.
Martin Truex Jr. The only reason why he made it that far is because he was the regular season champion. And then Kyle Busch, his first year at RCR, wins 3 races. That's not going to last just because that's the way sports work. The older guys start to fail, start to go. I mean, I've seen Kyle Busch wreck more in the last 2 years than I've ever seen him in my entire life. I mentioned this year that I watched Kyle Busch get lapped in green flag conditions, and I'm not used to that. So who's going to be the next Kyle Busch, the next Denny Hamlin, and the next Martin Truex Jr.? Is it going to be William Byron? Can he sustain that? And then the last thing I want to say is, who is the real Chase Elliott? Is it a guy that averages right around 10 or 11 spots? He's been the most popular driver. He has 1 championship. Is he in that discussion of being a dominant driver? I mean, I think that's a fair question to ask. Granted, he's definitely had his fair share of criticism this year, but will he be recognized again? He's got to be top 3. He's got to find a way to overcome 2 guys in his own organization right now. And I think that's a very, very fair question, because watching Kyle Larson do what he did, watch William Byron do what he did, Chase Elliott, man, he's really, really got to step it up next year. And is he going to be able to do that? Is he still the face of Hendrick? I know what your answer would be, but I think to a lot of other people, he is. And is that fair? Has he been passed up, or do we throw 2023 out the window? I think the start of next year, he'll be the driver I look at the most.
I 100% agree with that. I mean, think about how poor he ran at Phoenix. Like, he didn't even get mentioned on the broadcast besides, pass him for 27th place. I just have a hard time thinking about them and the team, and and I don't know if it's maybe a mental game a little bit, or they maybe need to make a little crew chief change, but I don't know, man. I always love Al Gustafson, but maybe that partnership maybe needs to go a different way. I know he's most popular, and I hate to say that a face of a team is defined by most popular. If you listen, I've been to a few races this year and stuff like that. I did not hear the cheers and stuff like that like I did in years past.
It was definitely a different year. I will,
and then maybe just because it was a non-contention and wasn't as big. But I'll be honest with you, if you listen to the Chastain, Larson, some of these other people, I'm gonna come down to this most popular, and he's probably gonna win the most popular again, and I'll disagree every single year because of it, because I just watch it And when he wins a race, think about when he wins a race. And I could go back on this from last year. When he won a race last year, he didn't get as many likes as some of the others. So, whole different topic, but I totally agree. That's who I'm going to have my eye on to see if he can rebound, and maybe just because of people are going to have a mid-year slump. It's just what it is. All the greats have them.
Right. Right. Well, that comes to our last segment of the live stream, and this is where we burn it down. Travis, I'll have you lead it off.
We didn't talk about the truck series at all, but Corey Heim, you deserved every penalty you got today and everything. I get it. You're mad. And I get it. I totally understand, but you have got to understand the situation of what's going on. Because if I was the receiving end of losing the championship because of you, I would be absolutely, furious. And if I was Ben Rhodes, I'd be coming over and shaking your hand, saying, "Thank you for winning me that championship. I didn't deserve to win that championship. Thank you for winning that championship for me, because I did not deserve to win that championship." And Carson, as for you, I don't know if it was a mistake or whatever, but your last 2 weeks, you went back to your old self. I hope I don't see it. I understand. I feel like you're pained because I feel like you were really sincere that you didn't mean to do any of that. But Lord have mercy, that truck race was pitiful. Corey Heim, I wish that penalty would have been even higher, because that is ridiculous. You got to understand the situation. I don't care if you wreck him at the end of the race. I don't care if you wreck him after the checkered flag. I don't care if you go punch him in the face afterwards. I think I texted you this that said, wait till after the race. Deal with it after that. But you literally changed up the championship by what you did. Bump him down the straightaway. Door him down the straightaway. Don't wreck him. Come on now. Like, you changed the whole stuff. I feel awful for
Grandin Finger.
Yeah, I felt awful for him. He knew. I'd be going down to Corey Heim's pit right now if I was him. Couldn't GMS on a good note. If I was Ben Rhodes, I'd be over there shaking his hand. I'd be buying him a case of beer. Come drink with me, because I obviously can't hold my liquor. Whatever. So there's my burn it down. Corey Heim, I lost some respect for you.
Yeah, he definitely, in the world's fastest way, went from a victim that everybody got behind to a villain in a matter of about 10 minutes. And just an awful display of what could have been a great, great truck race. And unfortunately, like you said, it took away a championship from Grant Enfinger. Granted, it probably took a championship away from Corey Heim. But yeah, live streamed a 150 lap race at a 1 mile track, and I was on live stream for 3 hours. But I do want to thank the 400 of you that ended up watching. So my burn it down is going to be absolutely nothing NASCAR based. I just want to thank everybody that decided to join here at Stuck in the Catch Fence. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for all your comments. Whenever I decided to do this at the beginning of the year, this was just something that I had a passion for, that I felt like I could bring some entertainment to the table for you guys, bring some news to the table for you guys, but more importantly, start a community to where you're part of the NASCAR world, where we all enjoy this. NASCAR has the most passionate fans. And at the same time, I'll get on Facebook and I'll get in a group and I'll probably rub like 3 inches of hair off because for whatever reason, somebody decided to make a Bubba Wallace comment today, just completely out of context for no reason. But the reason why you guys do that is because you're passionate. And the reason why I wanted to be part of a community that's passionate is because we need somebody to talk to. We need just a channel to where we can all get together, watch our favorite race, sit here and bitch and moan and gripe about who sucks and who's great and is Mark Martin better than Matt Kenseth and all these different things that you guys will be part of. And now we have a place to meet and do that. So I want to thank every one of you, all 500 plus of you that have done that. I hope we're able to double that more. That's just going to allow more conversation to happen. Travis and I got some big things. Travis, I want to thank you for joining, man. You got on here, have been a wonderful part of this. I know your passion for NASCAR is next to none compared to anybody else I've ever talked to. And just have had a blast with it. And I think a lot of people enjoy your passion and how much fun you have with it, because at the end of the day, that's why we do this as fans, is because we love it. And I think everybody can see that from you as well, Travis. So I do want to thank you as well.
Hey, thank you. Think about, if we would have went to Talladega together, I would just be, still learning about this. So I appreciate it. And I appreciate, all the comments. I don't know if the comments were actually working, because I feel like I've gotten some tags on some of the stuff. So I don't know if the comments are working or not, but like I said, I appreciate it. Ryan, thanks for asking me. Come on. I know I like to text you a lot about random stuff or stuff I see or ideas and blah, blah. So I really appreciate it. This is something I've always wanted to do. I just didn't have a platform for it. I think some of my friends back home and some other places, they make fun of me. I was on the golf course this past weekend watching some of the race, and my Evansville buddy goes, how can you sit there and just watch NASCAR for 3 hours? He goes, they're turning left. And I said, it's not about that. I said, I just love it. I'm passionate about it. I would do anything to work in the NASCAR industry. I just love it. I'm just thankful for it. It keeps me going. It keeps me entertained. That is what my Saturdays and Sundays are for. I get a little break here because of basketball, but thanks again, Ryan. I appreciate you asking me coming on here. I love it. I love talking about it. And I appreciate you listening to me, and I got a little yabber mouth, and it's always good to hear. Some people on YouTube can hear it, Facebook, and then obviously you. So I appreciate what you do, and keep it up.
Yeah, and just moving forward, guys, like I said, this was very raw. I mean, when I put this stuff together, this started off with trying to figure some stuff out. It was a learning by going through it. I think we're reaching something now, but what we want to do is build a good foundation of people that just enjoy the sport, and now moving forward, I mean, we're going to have more shorts. It's going to be dedicated to that. We're going to have more different segments. There's going to be dedication to that. There's going to be different types of discussions that, where we rank different things. Hopefully things that you've maybe thought about internally, but never expressed a conversation through your thoughts and eyes. And we're going to be a part of that, because we want to continue this conversation. We want to continue growing. And more importantly, want to continue to entertain you guys over something that we both love. So, that's going to be part of it. Again, if you want to find us, these are the different ways to do it. We are on Facebook. I know there has been quite a bit of people added to the Facebook channel and joining that way. And it's just an easier way to find it if you aren't on YouTube. The Patreon's there. If you ever want to support, don't ever ask for anything besides you click the subscribe button, which is free. But if you want to do more than that, it's there. And then the Rumble channel, it's there as well. If you want to do something besides Facebook or YouTube, it's all different kinds of mediums there. I do want to say, if this channel does grow and we do get X amount of Patreon people on there, we are going to support you for doing that, whether it be putting specifically your chats together for things whenever we build, because we will get to the point where we're not going to be able to answer every chat. Travis has already been a part of a few live streams where the chat just kept on rolling. There's just no way we don't have a 3-hour show if we get to all these chats.
Yeah.
And, and if it grows even further and the more you guys want to be a part of it, we'll just have show just with you guys, the people that are, the ones that are committing the most to this community. And we would love to do that as well, to where you just sit with me and Travis and we just have our own show and we just talk to you and bounce ideas off you guys, or, you come on the show as a guest as well. And we just all chatted up all kinds of wonderful ideas I have, to where we make every one of you guys a part of it. But I've talked long enough. My mouth's getting dry. Travis he's going to go back and watch 2021 replays. He's out of Pepsi. So that's going to do it. Again, we'll be down to one show a week in a couple weeks, and we'll be breaking the latest news as always. But my name is Ryan Peters for Travis Butt. It's been Stuck in the Catchphrase.